This is Steve McGrath, and welcome to Beyond the Helmet. You're about to listen to my conversation with Karl Mecklenburg, who, of course, is an all-time great for the Denver Broncos. So if you like this episode, please go ahead, subscribe, like it, share it with a friend, leave a review. And without any further, here's my conversation with Karl. It is my pleasure to be joined by Denver Broncos legend, really the last guy to make 77 an awesome, cool number to wear, in my opinion anyway. It's none other than Karl Mecklenburg. Karl, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Steve. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. It's
Good.
not every day you get to talk to a legend. So I want to start with really something you mentioned to me right before we jumped into this. And it was how being decisive is ultimately what gave you the career you had, because maybe you weren't the most physically gifted athlete out there. Do you mind just talking a little bit about that again, and even how you've taken that principle and had success outside of the football field as well?
Sure. Being decisive is one of my keys to success. Having the courage to be decisive, and it takes courage to be able to allow yourself to react when it's time to react. Whether that's on the football field or whether that's in a business situation or a relationship situation, it's the same concept. So the way I describe decisiveness is taking the first step in the right direction before anybody else does. Tight end can't pin you in, the guard can't cut you off, the fullback can't keep you from getting the line of scrimmage. Everything changes if you can be decisive and take that step. So how can you be decisive? Well, it's through preparation. It's through going into every situation with an understanding of what what the down and distance is, what the time of the game is, what the score is, how the offense is lined up, what your call on defense is, and then allowing yourself to go when it's time to go. So that decisiveness is huge, and there's examples of it all over the place. Peyton Manning, I mean, was the most decisive quarterback that's ever played the game. Unbelievable that way. And if you got to see his retirement speech, he went back to that over and over and over again. No one's going to out-prepare me. No one's going to out-prepare me. And I mean, if you looked at 2013, he set every record you could set as a quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
More yardage, more completions, more touchdowns, a higher percentage. I mean, whatever you looked at, he owns those records all in 2013. And this was after Indianapolis had given up on him. He had a broken neck. He could throw the ball maybe 50 yards, but it didn't matter because he knew exactly what defense you were in before you knew what defense you were in, and he just picked people apart. So that decisiveness is huge.
Very similar to where Tom Brady might be right now in his career, where it's much more on the mental side than the physical parts of your game.
Certainly, and it's if you got to have a certain level of physical ability, but that decisiveness makes a huge difference, and you see it in a lot of players. Tyrone Braxton was a safety who played with us, had a nice long career, was a leader, and same 12th round draft choice, kid out of North Dakota State. Wasn't the fastest guy, wasn't the biggest guy, but made play after play after play based on a decisiveness and that's something anybody can do. It's not a God-given talent to be prepared. That's something you work on. And you go into the situation prepared. I get up every morning, do a little Bible study, think about who I'm going to run into that day, how I can positively influence them, and then I'm ready. Then I can be decisive when there's an opportunity that comes up. Boom, I can jump right on
Yeah, it's a lot of it's preparation. To be decisive, you need to be prepared.
Certainly.
Now, it's easy maybe to say that with hindsight being, what I would say is a Hall of Fame caliber career, but I just want to underscore how you get there, because if I have this right, you're not setting the record books on fire in high school, and that's regardless maybe of what sport you tried.
No, Steve, I was a JV player as a junior in high school. I was just one of the guys. As a senior in high school, I was all state as a tight end and as a defensive end, but I was only 6 feet tall and 200 pounds. I wasn't big enough to play major college football. So I went to Augustana College in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, this little Division II school, on a 1/3 scholarship, with the understanding if I played well, they give me the full scholarship. I got out there. I grew 3 inches and 40 pounds my first year of college. Things changed. I was good. My second year there, I led the team in sacks. I played every down on defense. I thought I was going to get a full scholarship. They had said in my family's living room during recruiting season and said, if you contribute, we're going to give you the full scholarship. All we got is a third right now, but we'll bump you up later. So I go into the coach's office and sit down, and he says, Karl, we know your dad's a doctor. He can afford this school. We're going to take away your scholarship and use it to bring someone else in. So I left Augustana. I walked down at the University of Minnesota. When you transfer between four-year schools, you're ineligible to play in games. You can certainly practice. So my job that year was to be a live blocking dummy. I was supposed to imitate the guy from Michigan or Ohio State or whoever we're playing that week. If I want to eat with a team, I got to sweep up the weight room or sweep up the locker room. Usually they put my jersey, your jersey number on your laundry bag. The number on my laundry bag was number 114. There's no 114 in football, but that's me. Once again, it didn't matter. I knew exactly where I was going. I was going to be the best football player that ever played the game. That was my passion, my mission, my desire. And when I made decisions, they were based on that. When I prepared for the day, that was based on that. How can I get better today? So I got to Minnesota. As soon as I was eligible for a scholarship, they gave me one. Man, I felt good. I had a full scholarship, Big Ten school. A week later, we played our spring game. An inter-squad scrimmage that every team plays. They hold it at the stadium. They invite the fans out. The thing I'm talking about. Well, I tore a ligament in my knee. It was a week after they gave me the scholarship. Coach came to me and asked me to give the scholarship back. You don't have to give a scholarship back in the Big Ten. It's a four-year contract. So I wasn't going to give it back. And it got so bad in an effort to have me rehab my instead of allowing me to rehab my knee in the men's training room, they sent me to the women's training room to rehab my knee. It was, I don't know what they were thinking. I was a 20-year-old kid. That's still my good knee, right? but it was tough. It's not easy. It's not easy for anybody. I don't care what athleticism you have, what situation, negative things are going to happen. To me, success is overcoming obstacles on the way to your dreams. That's what it is. And you've got to be able to overcome. If you're going to reach that desire, that passion, that mission, like you say, be suggested as a Hall of Fame player and those type of things. The only way it happens is through overcoming. And I don't care if you're, like I already brought up Von Miller. Von Miller tore his ligament in his knee his first year in the NFL. He got suspended for drug use first year in the NFL. He went through some stuff now. And now you look at him and he's a pillar in the community. He's an unbelievable player. But it's overcoming, and it's not easy. It's not supposed to be easy. If it was easy, then everybody'd be as good as you are, right? Work at it.
Absolutely. So, there's so much there. How do you stay the course in times of turmoil for years? We're not talking about a blip on the radar. We're talking about years of maybe not necessarily seeing the light, but believing that you can get there. And I'd also like to ask you, overcoming failures is great, but in general, how do you feel? What taught you more? Was it your successes or your failures? What ultimately was driving you more?
Some of each. So in the NFL, they have tons of game film, right? You go in the meeting room with the other linebackers, you sit in there, you watch the video. Coach doesn't pull any punches. If you did something right, he lets everybody know. If you did something wrong, he lets everybody know. And if you grade out 90%, you're an all-pro level player, best of the best. So 10% of the time, you're getting hollered at right in front of your peers. That's just, but the thing you learn when you go through that over and over and over in your life is okay, so I did this right. I'm going to repeat that. I did this wrong. I'm going to figure out a way to change that. Set reasonable, short-term, specific goals that are steps to that desire, that passion, that mission, that extravagant, long-term, general thing you're trying to reach. And for me, it was like the greatest player that ever played the game. That was my target. But every day I was challenged to, this was wrong, this was wrong, this was wrong. Fix that. Set a goal, something reasonable, short-term, specific, whether it's a hand placement thing, whether it's a anticipation thing, whatever it is. And if you can operate that way, to me, you can learn from. There's no complacency when you do great, and you can learn from your mistakes instead of just blaming others or, you know, whatever all the other options are for you did something
Sure.
wrong.
So I think we've done a pretty good job now of talking about the conviction you had to show everyone, show yourself that you could obtain what you had. You knew the direction you wanted to head in,
Well,
and you
first
were
of
going
all, I loved it. I mean, I loved it. I love my dad tells a story about a 10-year-old kid, me, my first game, right? So I'm playing football fundamentals. Maybe 60 kids out. Everybody had their own jersey and their own helmet. You know, you had the tape on your forehead with your name on it because there's so many rugrats running around. The coach didn't know who was who yet. And so my dad's a doctor. Like I said, he had rounds that morning. He got there a little late, and I'd already finished playing. I'm sitting on the sidelines, and he comes to the sidelines and thinking I'm going to be upset that he missed my first game. And puts his arms around me and says, "Hey, Karl, what do you think about football?" And my response as a 10-year-old child was, "Dad, I really love to smash guys." I was a linebacker, and I loved the physicality of the game. I loved the challenge, the one-on-one, you know, who's going to back down piece of that game. And so first of all, I loved it. And because I loved it, I was pursuing it relentlessly. And that's the key. You know, if you got something that you love in your life, you are going to run into obstacles trying to push through to get to that place. But so what? You know, if it was easy, then it wouldn't be so exciting. So my desire, my passion, my mission was written really early. This is what I love. I knew I loved it. There's other things in my life that I love too. I'm 60 years old, like you said. I'm not Tom Brady. I can't still play. I got other desires, passions, missions in my life. As a husband and a father, I want to give unconditional, uncompromising love to my family. As a Christian, I want everything I say and do to reflect God's love. As an author and a speaker, I want to inspire long-term positive change. These are things I've thought about. These are things that I know. These are my targets, my missions, these places I'm going. And once again, extravagant, long-term kind of general things that when I'm making a decision, they're measured against those things.
And I think it's fair to say when anyone looks at what you've done as a speaker, you're certainly living up to that. And I say that because, of course, the general public isn't going to know your personal life, which I'm sure you're doing just as well as you are speaking and everything else that we can see and enjoy. But when you are drafted by Denver, as you've said now, an undersized player in high school, you do get the growth spurt, you add on some extra weight, but you're still an undersized nose tackle, which thankfully in 83, there's a 12-round draft because you had a chance to be drafted. They don't go up to 300 anymore or past that at 310. But what were your thoughts? Because it's your third year in the NFL where you really break out. And as everyone knows, it's as a linebacker. But those 2 years of making the team, making the positional change, we've already talked. I'm sure it was easy for you because of everything you just said. You knew you were going to do whatever it took. But how did you technically, learn the ins and outs of doing something you hadn't done before in the field?
Yeah, having the courage to try new things is every bit as important as having the courage to be decisive. It's my business is based on that. My personal life is based on that, and certainly my football career was based on that. I played all 7 defensive front positions, sometimes in one game. I mean, they moved me around all the time. But it started as a nose guard. I tore a ligament in my elbow. They moved me out to defensive end. And during training camp, we're playing the Seattle Seahawks. We're playing the Seahawks. For some reason, their starting tackle was still in the game when I got in the game. It was third quarter. I'm playing defensive end because you can't play nose guard with a torn ligament in your elbow. And my arm was like a hook. They had taped it that way. So, but you can play defensive end that way. So, and I got 2 sacks and forced a fumble. Was defensive player of the game. Elway was offensive player of the game. I basically made the team on that. Started as a nickel defensive end for the rest of my career. Played special teams. And then the coaches came to me in my second year and asked me if I'd like to switch to linebacker. Very different job. I mean, the lineman's hand is on the ground. He's just focused real tight. He's either staring at the ball on a penetrating defense or the nose of the guy lined up across from him on a reading defense, and that's all he sees. Where a linebacker's off the ball, he's got to go that way, yeah, like the lineman, but he's also got to go that way and this way. And, you know, he's all of a sudden everything opens up. You got to see the whole field at once, because if anything changes, that guy staring at the ball's not going to know. You got to let him know. And I'd already seen players get their position changed and then get fired. I mean, a lot of times it's the first step out the door. But I believed in myself. I believed in Coach Collier and Coach Moore, Coach Jones, and said, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And they trained me. I'd never played linebacker before in my life. And once again, I think big piece of leadership, big piece of that coaching staff was their ability to identify what the strengths are of the individuals on their team, use those strengths to help the team, figure out what the weaknesses are, use the strengths of the team to cover for the weaknesses of the individual. They were tremendous at that. And if you look at the careers of a lot of guys that played for the Broncos through the years, they got their positions tweaked and moved and changed and adjusted. And based on their skill set, based on their athleticism, based on their abilities to be decisive. And it was a tremendous group to play with.
And beyond that, Coach Reeves has his own coaching tree that he's coached, longer than I feel like most people have been alive. I mean, he's just a juggernaut in the football world. But I think as much as the players have changed, I mean, it's a huge, shout out to Coach in approaching it that way. And it's something I've born and raised in the New England area. It's something that we saw time and time again on Patriot defenses for the last 20 years.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's one of the things I talk about after I say what do the Patriots do other than cheat. I bring up what Belichick does. And actually, but Belichick's first job was under Joe Collier with the Broncos, and his first job in the NFL. And he learned tremendous. I mean, that Joe's the same way. He will identify the strengths on the team and figure out a way to use them. His job is not to stick a square peg in a round hole. His job is to figure out where that square peg belongs on the football field and build a system that fits them. When you guys had that, when New England had that 4 tight end offense, I never seen anything like that before in my life, right? But the coach went into training camp and set up 4 of our best offensive players are tight ends, and they played a 4 tight end offense probably half the time that year. It was amazing, and it was based on not on his system or whatever. It was based on I'm changing whatever I got to do to get the best out of these guys. Great leadership.
Yeah, you have to be able to adapt, and I think that which begs the question anyway. If you need to have the courage to try something new, how do you decide when should I have that courage and maybe when should I pass up this opportunity? Right? Because it's one thing to know that you can do something; it's another to know when.
Yeah, you have to be able to choose. Does it align with your desires, with your passions, with your missions? Whether that's a team thing, and I call them different things when I'm talking about a team. It's the cornerstones of the team. It's the commitment of the team, and it's the connection of the team. But it's the same stuff. It's understanding where you're trying to get to and what's the best way to get there. If my desire, my passion, my mission is I'm going to be the greatest football player that ever played the game. And I have opportunities outside of that don't fit into that cone, that desire, that passion, that place I'm going to. I'm going to pass on it. If it's going to get in the way, I'm going to pass. And that's a decision that young people make all the time, or they should make. Whether it's, I'm going to go to this party, or I'm going to, get my rest before the game, or, whatever that decision is. You've got to make that decision in light of where you want to end up. So to me, it's not that hard to make those decisions, because if it fits within that desire, that passion, that mission, then yeah, go for it. If it doesn't, there's no reason to get involved.
Definitely. Now, I did just want to get a little deeper into the Denver Broncos playing days. You actually when you begin with the team, right, you only get 1 year with Randy Gradishar, and just what his resume was. I was curious, how much did he rub off on you as you try to find your role in the Denver defense?
Yeah, well, Randy and that whole defense, the Orange Crush. When we got there, and it was a weird situation. The guy who owned the team when the Broncos drafted me was a guy named Edgar Kaiser. Edgar Kaiser was a financier out of Canada that didn't know anything about football. Wasn't really even interested in football. It was an investment. If I passed him on the street, walking down the street, he wouldn't know that I was part of his team. Uh, our cornerstone for the Denver Broncos when I first got to the Denver Broncos was, we're here to earn Edgar Kaiser money. That's what that was our role. He sold the team to Pat Bowlen. Before he did that, he had our draft class. We had 13 rookies make it that year. He was trying to lower the salary structure of the team so he could sell the team. He was setting it up to sell it. So we had 13 rookies make it that year, and a bunch of guys got fired who probably shouldn't have gotten fired. A bunch of rookies made it who probably shouldn't have made it. But then Pat Bowlen bought the team, and Pat changed everything. His desire, his cornerstones for that team were to win championships and to serve the community. And it was clear and it was consistent, and there was no question about what we were there for. And it was something you could buy into, as a team. This, I understand that. Maybe making Edgar Kaiser money is not, something I'm going to jump in head over tail, but serving the community and winning championships were something we bought into. And in the 12 years I played with the Broncos over that time, we never lost to New England. we also only had 2 losing seasons in 12 years. It was a great team, and it was a great team, not only based on the coaching and on the players, but it was the leadership. It was Pat's drive and his desire and his connection with the team. I mean, he was there every day. He was there in the training room, in the locker room, and on the practice field. He knew your wife's name and your kids' names and what you like to do when you weren't at practice. And I mean, he was part of the team, and a huge part of the team, and the leader.
They always say it starts at the top. So when you have ownership at the very top that is doing it the right way and is completely invested, not just monetarily, that's the foundation of something good. And obviously it went all the way down the line from the coaching staff, the players themselves. So when it comes then to success on the field, and you guys, as you know, luckily, in '83, this guy, John Elway, starts to play with the Broncos the same time that you do. And there's a little bit of a work up there before you guys are really in it. But, man, it didn't take much. So how much, or what would you say about Coach Reeves and his ability to grow with the team in a young quarterback and ultimately keep you guys in contention every single year?
Yeah, he wanted to win more than anything. There was no gray area. We were there to win, and it didn't matter. Our commitment as a team was to win each game. If you asked Pat Bowlen what our record was going to be before each season, he'd always say 16-0. And if we'd had a couple losses midway through the season, then it was 14-2 or what. I mean, we were every single day was based on winning the next game. That's where our focus was, is to win each game. And once again, it started from the top, and it didn't matter whether it was Dan Reeves as coach, but Dan was right on board. I mean, we had a coach on Dan's coaching staff that you would swear his only job was to blow a whistle every 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes, our practice changed. We went from run defense to pass defense to whatever. We just switched around every 5 minutes, and Harry would blow the whistle every 5 minutes. He's pulling down 6 figures to blow a whistle every 5 minutes. But the fact of the matter is, Dan played a whole bunch of charity golf tournaments, and Dan had to win. And this Harry guy, he was an unbelievable golfer. He'd play on Dan's team every time they play in a charity golf tournament, and Dan would win. So that's how bad Dan had to win. I mean, we lost 3 games in a row once when Dan was our head coach. He took away our lunch. We didn't deserve lunch because we lost 3. I mean, that was the focus. Everything was focused at, we're going to win the next game.
Obviously, the Broncos organization goes on to win Super Bowls. But when you look at Coach Reeves, it's like the fact that he didn't get it in Denver, he didn't get it in Atlanta, for a guy that was just so committed and seemed like, was deserving of winning one as a coach. How I'm not that you guys as players would be feeling necessarily bad for coach more than yourselves for losing the games, but how do you bounce back after getting your heart torn out? Not once, not twice, but I mean, to continue to not let that deter you in any way says something about the intestinal fortitude of everyone in the organization.
It does. I think you can look at yourself and you can look at the game, and just like any other game, and see what you did right, see what you did wrong, make some adjustments. It's interesting. I've talked to a number of my ex-teammates who went on to win Super Bowls, and each of them said that they were surprised that 2 weeks after the Super Bowl, guys were getting traded, guys were going in and having surgery. Everything was about the next year. And it's the exact same thing if you lose the Super Bowl, or if you don't even make the playoffs. It's each season is of itself, where it's a package, and then whether you win or you lose or what happened, boom, then it's the next year. We're bringing in rookies. We got a draft coming up. How we're going to replace this old guy or this injured guy, or whatever it is. So yes, it hurts. You want to win every game, especially the Super Bowl. But from a different perspective, it's a football game, and you look at what went right and look at what went wrong. Did somehow, because we had 2 weeks, did we prepare wrong, or did I prepare wrong, or was it a matchup situation? What was it that lost us the game? And in each of the 3 Super Bowls, there were different reasons we lost the game. And there were different reasons that the team that beat us. So it's a game, and you get ready for the next game. I'm a positive thinker. I'm somebody who's looking forward, and to have those opportunities to play in the Super Bowl. I mean, what a gift! What an absolutely awesome thing to play in 3 Super Bowls in a 12-year career. There's so many guys who don't even ever make the playoffs during their career, but to have the great victories we had along the way. Too bad one of them wasn't in the Super Bowl, but hey, I did what I did, and I look at it as a team game. You can do whatever you can do, and sometimes you lose.
So you see Shannon Sharpe get drafted, Steve Atwater get drafted, a lot of key pieces to the 97 team that gets there. I mean, did you ever, when they're there, did you ever think, I could have played another couple of years? Maybe I should have been out there with those guys.
No, I was done. My body was done. I was not the fastest guy anyway. My last 4 years with the Broncos, I never practiced on Wednesday. I've had 18 football-related surgeries. I only missed 5 games, but I always had surgery after the end of the season. My body was beat up, and when you're a half step short in the NFL, I knew exactly what to do, but I couldn't quite get there. And my last season, I had 3 concussions just because I was a half step short. Just couldn't quite get to where it was supposed to be. And it wasn't fun. When you know what to do and you've been able to do it in the past, and all of a sudden you can't do it anymore, that's a tough thing. So yeah, it was time. It was time for me to get home to my family. It was time for a lot of reasons, but I don't ever second guess the retirement decision. It was definitely time.
So to have the courage to be decisive, and then you no longer have the physical capability to match the mental courage that you have, that has to be a really tough pill to swallow. So of course, I was saying that in jest, but to not second guess retirement, how well did you adjust to life after being an athlete?
I went fishing for a while. After a while, the fish I caught today looked a lot like the fish I caught yesterday. I got tired of that. I'd had some opportunities to give speeches in the past, and I knew I liked it. My dad was a storyteller. So I grew up around that, and really found it to be a great replacement for the adrenaline that I missed from football. probably the thing I missed most from playing professional football was the adrenaline, the excitement, the game day build up and time to perform, and you get up and then you go, right? So I found that in public speaking. I do about 40 keynotes a year all around the country. Been doing it for 15 years, longer than I played in the NFL. I still get a huge charge every time I get up in front of an audience to give a speech, and now doing it virtually. I'm doing lots of virtual presentations for companies and organizations. And it works out. It's a little bit different because you don't have the handshakes and the and the before and after stuff quite as much, but it works. I still get that charge that I miss from football. And I'm pretty convinced one of the reasons so many athletes get in trouble when they get done with their careers is they're trying to replace that adrenaline, and they replace that adrenaline in a negative way instead of in a positive way.
I feel like a lot of guys just didn't think enough about how do I take what I've done, what I'm good at, what made me good at it, and now find a way to rewire that towards something else. It's, it's chasing that adrenaline, but having no real, there's no forethought as to what I should be doing with all that time and energy. Now there's just a void.
Yeah, that's true. I think players should understand that they have skills that the real world needs. I mean, that ability to be a teammate, that ability to be a leader, that ability to set a goal and accomplish that goal. That's something that's pretty rare out there in the real world. But it's something that you've worked on every single day of your athletic career. So you have skills that other people don't have. You might not have experience, in the business world or whatever you're going into, but you definitely have skills that are transferable and really will make a difference when you get out there and you learn the new set of rules.
Absolutely. So, Karl, as we get toward the end here, you've given so much great advice and insight as to what made you successful. But if you were going to be speaking to a young student athlete today, what is the single best piece of advice that you would give?
Wow. Have fun. Enjoy what you're doing. If it's not fun, if it's not something that you think you want to take the next step and maybe try something else and try a lot of things. I mean, hockey was my passion as a kid. I grew up in Minnesota. I mean, everything that's flat, they flood that. That's a hockey rink during the winter. I mean, I spent all kinds of time on the ice. I worked hard at it. And interestingly, when they made the switch from lineman to linebacker, I already had the strength in my hips and in my lower body from all that hockey and all that running around. I understood what angles were about. I was a hockey goalie. And as a goalie, it's all about cutting off angles. As a linebacker, it's all about angles. So I had this skill set that I had developed somewhere else. A lot of young kids get pigeonholed in one sport. Like I'm a baseball player. Well, you're 6 years old. How do you know that's all you do, right? I mean, maybe you're going to grow 3 inches and 40 pounds your first year of college, whatever. Take advantage of the opportunities. I played baseball. I played hockey. I played football. I was a Boy Scout. I played baritone horn in the band. I was, whatever I could do, I did. And each of those things, I've carried a piece away with me and helps me in whatever else I'm doing. So take advantage of opportunities that are there. Have the courage to try new things and spread out. Don't get pigeonholed as a little kid.
Definitely. I mean, be a well-rounded athlete, but more importantly, be a well-rounded human being by just getting yourself out there, having the courage to try new things and not being pigeonholed.
Steve, I was an old football player at 34 years old, right? I retired at 34. I got 2/3 of my working life ahead of me at 34, right? My son's 34 now. I give him a hard time. It's like, well, yeah, I was retiring. What are you doing? There's a real finite tight. The average career in the NFL is 3 years. I mean, so you're still in your 20s, early 20s. And then life goes on. So yeah, you've got to be well-rounded. Don't say, pigeonhole yourself and say, this is all I can do. No, there's all kinds of opportunity out there. You just got to, once again, decide what you like and go after it.
There you have it. Well, Karl, for everyone that's listening, I know they can find you at karlmecklenburg.com. You're on
Certainly.
social media. Is there any other place people should be checking you out to keep up to date with what you're doing and see some of the information and info that you're
Yeah.
putting out?
Well, no. I mean, karlmecklenburg.com is a great spot to learn more about my speaking career. But the internet's full of video of me speaking, video of me playing, and social media. I'm Karl Mecklenburg on every single one of them. So if you want to follow me there, that'd be great. And I'd love to come give a speech for anybody who needs some excitement and some motivation. I talk about teamwork, with leadership being the ultimate expression of teamwork. Courage, the courage to try new things, the courage to be decisive. Dedication, which is hard work, constant learning, refusing to quit. Desire, that's the dream, the passion, the mission. Honesty and forgiveness with yourself and self-evaluation and with others. And finally, goal setting, reasonable short-term specific steps to get you to those desires, those passions, those missions. And the one thing that I do talk about more than I think most motivational teamwork speakers is that honesty and forgiveness piece. That when people pick something out from my speech, they're like, that's different. That's something I haven't heard. And I define that as a sports mentality. It's that piece we already talked about where you're getting broken down right in front of your peers, and you got to be honest with yourself and say, yeah, I got to fix that. And then you got to forgive yourself so you can do that. And you got to forgive the guy next to you who messed up too, right? So and be honest about that. So then you set goals and you get to that desire, that passion, that mission.
Well, if anyone just listened to anything you just said, I felt like we got a little bit of all those different keynotes in there. So, I felt like we did a good job almost making a highlight reel of sorts of some of the stuff that you talk about. But that honesty piece that you just mentioned and forgiveness, that to me is the essence of trust. When you really trust your team, your coaches, that's what you allow yourself to do, is be vulnerable to the point where you'll take the feedback and you'll forgive someone when you trust that they're doing their best and they have the best interest of the team and the goal,
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. You're sitting in that room and he's screaming at you, but he's screaming at you because he loves you and he wants you to be better. That's it. It comes down to he's not dissing you. He's helping you. He's like, okay, obviously I didn't try to do the wrong thing. I'm here to learn how to do the right thing. Let me know, and I missed that. My wife tried to do that for me, but that's, but no, it's something of all the things I miss from football. That's one of the top things is having somebody follow, have that video. We had every game was filmed from 2 different angles. Every practice was filmed, and under Mike Shanahan, even meetings were filmed. So theoretically, you can sit in a meeting watching film of yourself practicing. It's all on video, and it's all evaluated. And like I said before, if you grade out 90%, you're the best of the best. So you're wrong. Fix it, right? Somebody's got to tell you you're wrong because you don't know. I mean, obviously, if you're not making a play, you're not making a play, so you don't feel good about it. So what did I do wrong? I mean, was it a footwork thing? Was it a hand position thing? Was it a coordination? What was it? Let's fix it.
It's the importance of, if you don't have a team, you don't have a coach, finding camaraderie in something, some sort of organization, some group, some peer mentorship, anything that you do. I mean, it just goes to show maybe how hard quarantine can be on someone when all of a sudden that gets stripped from us. But it's the peer-to-peer feedback that I think anyway, really helps us bridge some of that, in lieu of being on a team, to have a sense of community.
There's nothing as lonely as being a professional speaker. I mean, I get up in the morning, I get on a plane and I fly to, Des Moines, and I give a speech and I come home and, nobody understands what I'm doing or why I'm doing it, except I'm a member of the National Speakers Association. And I've got a mastermind group of 6 or 7 other speakers that at least once a month, I sit down with them, or we're Zooming each other now, and we bounce problems off of each other, and we bounce, answers and solutions and challenges and everything off of each other. And if you don't have that group, find a group. Like Steve said, that's a huge thing, is having that team of like-minded people, and people that are within that same industry, or that same situation with their family, or whatever it is, and bounce ideas off of each other. There's somebody who's already solved a problem that's bothering the heck out of you, and you can't figure it out, and then he probably lives next door. I don't know. You can talk to people, figure it out, be vulnerable.
And under the theme of courage, have the courage to reach out and try to find it.
Yeah, it's there. There's so many opportunities now that weren't there from a just technical standpoint of going online and figuring out some things. But there's nothing like experience and actual person-to-person connection, and building those relationships. The relationships I have from my football days are some of the strongest I'll ever have, because I sat in a room with them and got yelled at right in front of them, and they thought I'm still okay. and I thought they're still okay. We're gonna get over this, and they're gonna see that I'm doing everything I can to fix it. I'm gonna see they're doing everything they can to fix it, and we're holding hand in hand and winning that next game because we fixed it.
And that is why I feel bad for anyone that did not play a team sport.
Yeah. Team sports, there's a great value there, and it's interesting that when budgets get tight, like I'm sure they're going to get tight after this COVID thing, some of the first things to go are team things. And I insisted each of my kids got involved in some sort of team thing, and it didn't have to be sports necessarily. My daughter was a musician. My youngest son was in Boy Scouts, and it's a team and leadership thing. And if you can identify something where you can get your kids involved in the team thing, and if it's a school thing, all the better. But if it's not, put them in something where they can learn about teamwork, because once they get out of school, they're going to be on a team, regardless of whether it's a family thing or a community thing or a business thing. You've got to develop that part of your repertoire. You really don't have a chance.
Absolutely. Well, Karl, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it too. Take care.